more open you are, the more socially connected you are with these new audiences, the more likely you can actually extract value out of it. And to just be very pragmatic, this is how I think you could use metrics to be able to make decisions on an everyday basis. And so many of you are maybe community managers, and you have a group of fans, for example, on Facebook, and you're like, well, what do I do with them? Well, some of them have large networks, some of them have small networks, and some of them refer, some of them don't refer. So maybe I want to go find more fans who have large networks. And therefore, I know certain of them will refer and others won't refer. But maybe I should do a different strategy. Maybe I want to go after the people who I already have, who are small networks, and get the people who don't refer to refer. Because the logic being, people in small networks have higher trust values between the people. It's a tighter trust relationship. So if they do refer, the value of it's going to be much higher, and the conversion rate is going to be higher. Now I have option A, and I have option B. It takes time and resources to do either of one of these options. Which of these get me closer to my goal? I now have some ways of looking at this in a very pragmatic way to be able to say, this is worth the time and resources. This is not ROI. This is not some esoteric, hard to understand engagement metric. This is just discipline in terms of using these tools and the metrics to be able to achieve, again, very clearly defined goals that you're trying to achieve. So I do want to talk a bit about open leadership. This is a construct that I have, because when you think about these people who are thinking about this new world, some people get it and some people don't. And it's very, very hard to convince people who don't get it to come over to the other side. And the reason being, people tend to have mindsets that are very, very tough to change. They tend to be either optimistic about what people will do when they get power and control, or they may be very pessimistic about what they would do. And then on the same side, some people are very collaborative by nature, in that they will turn to other people when there are tough problems to solve. But others tend to be more independent in the way they approach things. And what's interesting is when I do the assessment tools with people, when the higher you are up in an organization, the more you have to lose, the more likely you are to be pessimistic. And also because of your success, you tend to be much more independent in your view of the world than collaborative. So it kind of makes sense that the people in the corner streets, people in positions of power who are used to command and control tend to be worried skeptics. On the other side, a lot of the people who are pushing for a lot of the changes in organizations tend to be the transparent evangelists. And because they're early on in their careers, they haven't actually developed the skills to be collaborative. The most important person in terms of this open leadership spectrum and the archetypes are what I call the realist optimists. These people are optimistic about what the world could look like, how it could change, but they're also very realistic about all of the barriers that stand in the way, and they're able to work through all of those changes. So you oftentimes come across this kind of person, a curmudgeon. Do any of you have somebody like this in your organization? Show of hands? Okay, you're not alone. Would love to hear, if you're tweeting about this, would love to have you put out some of your best techniques and tactics. This isn't just me who has ideas. Many of you have had to deal with the curmudgeon. And he's the worried skeptic. He's very pessimistic. He knows all these things can go wrong if I let go of control, if I actually have a conversation with someone. They just see risk and failure and just disaster on the horizon. So who does this? I think people like Lavisa Williams. Where's Lavisa? I warned her I was going to call her out. There she is back there. So she's one of my heroes because she has a wonderful job of convincing all the worried skeptics in the State Department. Again, this is an organization that is highly, how would you say it nicely? Well, layered? Yeah, exactly. So in the State Department, and what I find interesting is that she has this optimistic view of the world. She understands this space. She lives in it. Many of you know her. But at the same time, she knows how state works, or in many cases, doesn't work. She knows the buttons to push. I like the characteristic she says, I go around carrying my bucket of Kool-Aid, asking everyone to drink from it, and get the door slammed in my face all the time. She wrote the first social media policy, and with that got credibility. She's not going to go out there and just fling open the doors, because the risk of doing that when you're in diplomatic situations where relationships between countries and the people in them are at stake, the stakes are really high. But at the same time, the cost of not engaging, especially where the United States has been for the past several years, there was this tremendous need from the very top of the organization, from Secretary Clinton, to get engaged.